For too long, the opponents of financial reform have cast this debate as an argument between the pro-regulation camp and the pro-market camp, generally putting Democrats in the first camp and Republicans in the second. But the so-called choice gets it wrong. Rules are not the enemy of markets. Rules are a necessary ingredient for healthy markets, for markets that create competition and innovation. And rolling back the rules or firing cops can be profoundly anti-market. Now, right now, Republicans are pushing a strongly anti-market agenda. They're trying to hamstring the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau by slashing its funding, reducing its jurisdiction, and restricting its enforcement authority. Steps that would undermine the market by taking financial cops off the beat. With no cops, companies could outcompete each other, not by creating value, but by cheating their customers more effectively. Or look at what they did last December. When Republicans rammed through a repeal of dodd-frank swaps push-out, they undermined the market again by handing out taxpayer subsidies to a handful of the biggest banks on the planet, and then giving those banks a tremendous advantage over their smaller competitors who just don't get that kind of subsidy. Republicans claim loudly and repeatedly that they support competitive markets, but their approach to financial regulation is pure crony capitalism that helps the rich and the powerful protect and expand their wealth and power, and that leaves everyone else behind. We need rules, but not all rules promote innovative and competitive markets. So what tests should we be using to make sure that the rules promote healthy competition and innovation? Well, we can start with two principles that worked so well for more than 50 years after the 1929 crash. First, financial institutions shouldn't be allowed to cheat people. Markets work only if people can see and understand the products that they're buying, only if people can reasonably compare one product to another, only if people can't get fooled into taking on far more risk than they realize, just so that some fly-by-night company can turn a quick profit and move on. That's true for families buying mortgages, and it's true for pension plans buying complex financial instruments. Second, financial institutions shouldn't be allowed to get taxpayers to pick up their risks. And that's true for using insured deposits for high-risk trading, Glass-Steagall, and it's true for letting too big to fail banks get wink and a nod guarantees of a government bailout. Judged against these two principles, Dodd-Frank made some real progress, and Barney Frank and Chris Dodd deserve an enormous amount of credit for their leadership. But there is more work to be done. These changes can make a real difference. They can help protect hardworking families from cheats and liars. They can help rein in the lawless practices that are still too common on Wall Street. They can end too big to fail. But most of all, these changes will make our financial markets stronger, more competitive, and more innovative. The secret to better markets isn't turning loose the biggest banks to do whatever they want. The secret is smarter, more structural regulation that forces everyone to play by the same rules and doesn't let anyone put the entire economy at risk. This is an economic fight, but it is also a political fight. The biggest financial institutions in this country aren't just big. They wield enormous political power. Last December, Citibank lobbyists wrote an amendment to Dodd-Frank and persuaded their friends in Washington to attach it to a bill that had to pass or the government would have been shut down. And when there was some pushback over that amendment, the CEO of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, personally got on the phone with members of Congress to secure their votes. How many individuals who are looking for a mortgage or a credit card could make that call? How many small banks could call their lobbyists and have them write an amendment that would threaten to shut down the U.S. government if they didn't get it passed? None. Keep in mind that the big banks aren't trying to make the markets more competitive. They just want rules that make more and more advantages for themselves. The system is rigged, and those who rigged it want to keep it that way. When the other Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, broke up monopolies, he did it in large part because those giant companies threatened our democracy. Big corporations, Roosevelt said, should not have the power, quote, to interfere in politics in order to secure privileges to which they are not entitled. Our economy suffers when those who can hire armies of lobbyists and make huge political contributions can decide what the financial cops can and cannot do. Our democracy suffers when Congress puts the interests of a handful of giant banks ahead of the needs of 320 million American citizens. If the big banks keep calling the shots, they will own both our economy and our democracy. We know what changes we need to make the financial markets work better. Strengthen the rules to prevent cheating. Make the cops do their jobs. Cut the banks down to size. Change the tax code to promote more long-term investment. Tackle shadow banking. The key steps aren't hard. We know what we need to do. It just takes political courage and a strong demand from the public to complete the unfinished work of financial reform. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you. Thank you.